Hello, everyone. This is a list I've been wanting to do for years, and due to a recent storm in my area knocking out my internet for days, I had time to ponder this list again. This has changed a lot over the years and is likely to change in the future, but I figured it was time to finally make a video. These are my top 7 boss battles in video games. Why 7? 10 is too common, 5 is too few, and 6 is just scared because, of course, 7, 8, 9. And keep in mind, my main focus with a video like this is twofold. One is to hopefully make you aware of some games that you otherwise might not have tried. And second, for me personally, I just like to gush over things that have touched me on an emotional level. And I hope I can convey some of that passion in a positive manner out there to the gaming community. I'm also going to gush about music a bit because I love it when a game goes all out for a boss battle tune. And, also, good boss battles are something that tend to be thrown at you at the end of a game, typically a final battle, so there are spoilers ahead, but most of these games are pretty old at this point. The newest game on this list is from over a year ago, so let's get started.
Number 7, Onslaught.
I love fighting games. I'm not good at them, but the adrenaline rush I get from this genre makes me feel alive. Enraged, but alive. Fighting games are known for their final boss battles, and when it comes to fighting games, there is no franchise more well known than Capcom's Versus series. Starting technically with the incredible but cheap input reading AI laden X Men Children of the Atom, making their way through the Marvel ensemble of characters teaming up with the cast of Street Fighter, and eventually making the name everyone knows as they went on. Marvel vs. Capcom. Capcom went really hard with the bosses for this series, from humble beginnings with Magneto descending from his throne to crush everyone's souls,
Dare rise against me. The human era is over. Mutant era has come.
then to Thanos and making our way to Apocalypse, who was so awesome they used him twice. While he was certainly impressive to look at, he wasn't all that difficult. So when it came time for the first Marvel vs. Capcom, they decided to step it up a notch.
Come on, mon ami.
My name and feeling. I am Onslaught.
At the time, Onslaught was a big event in the comics. And while I certainly enjoyed rummaging through game manuals before playing the games, rest in peace to printed game manuals, and obviously noticed that Onslaught was listed as the enemy, nothing could prepare me for the sheer magnitude of Onslaught in-game. The sprite work, the intense music, the insanely powerful attacks, right up to his terrifying massive second form, Onslaught is unforgettable as a fighting game boss. Also, thanks to the recent Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, it's never been easier to experience this one, so go play it.
Number 6, Sigma.
I have probably poured more hours into the Mega Man franchise than probably any other video game franchise. Well, that and Armored Core. When the series made its way to the 32-bit era, we were treated to the epitome of the franchise in my opinion, Mega Man X4. It's no secret, Sigma shows up at the end of every single game in the X series other than Command Mission. But in X4, they really took it to another level, staging the hostility between Repliforce and the Maverick Hunters in probably the most sorrowful conflict in the series. The player, assuming they have been keeping up with the series, is clued in very early that Sigma is behind everything. But X and Zero? They've got no clue until he shows up at his Grim Reaper cloak to start taunting them. If you know his patterns and weaknesses, he's a total pushover, but going into this blind, it's an extremely difficult fight that goes on for 3 phases. The third phase even has 2 separate health bars to deplete. It makes for the most standout battle against Sigma in the series. We've beat him before, and we'll beat him again. But this fight in X4 feels a lot deeper, especially if you play as Zero, where you get the most awesome cutscene ever along with a massive lore dump. That being that Zero was once a Maverick himself, and by the end of the game, it's abundantly clear that he was created by the antagonist of the previous series in the timeline, Dr. Wily. It's common knowledge these days, but growing up with this really made it occupy a special place in my heart. Oh hey, the other franchise I poured most of my gaming life into. Armored Core is filled to the brim with seemingly impossible boss battles that you have to build your way to victory for, or become so locked in with your build that you don't need the specific equipment to take them down. The most recent entry in the series, Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, definitely demands that you bring the right tools to the right jobs when it comes to boss battles. It can be a little frustrating, but it's at least fairly easy to go back and get the right weapons and then come back to the fight. This is one of those bosses, and it's not even the final boss. Or one of them. See, early in the game you hit the first true From Software filter boss. The boss that makes you learn or forces you to quit. Fun fact, I quit for a while. The fight against Balteus is so absolutely infuriating to the point I uninstalled the game because I was getting so angry I couldn't see straight. So imagine my surprise when I'm at the end of my first playthrough. I'm on a hellacious mission with our buddy Rusty, and he says that they must have finished work on Balteus, and my heart sank. I could not handle this again. But there were a few factors that made this one more bearable. First, there's no Macross Missile Massacre attack. Instead, this one is focused on mostly insanely powerful energy attacks. Second, the music track here, Rusted Pride, is one of the most memorable tracks in the game. Lastly, it's being piloted, unlike the autonomous first version. And it's not just piloted by some random arquebus goon either. It's piloted by V2 Snail. This absolute...
Did what? The bare minimum.
condescending...
You're below that. You are vermin.
backstabbing... egotistical bastard...
How dare you bear your filthy fangs against me?
is finally putting everything on the line. He wants you dead for all the trouble you've caused. You know what though? I'm sick of your shit too, asshole. There is nothing more satisfying than finally sending this bastard up in smoke. His final contingency plans just continue his cruel nature, but you get to make sure that that's the last of his scheming.
Number 4, Weissman.
A few years ago, this wouldn't have been on the list, because I regrettably put this amazing series on the back burner. But I'm all caught up with the series up to the current day for US releases, and while the series is loaded with incredible music, characters, and boss battles, there's one boss battle that stands at the top for me, and it's actually in the second game in the series. George Weissman, the Faceless. He first makes himself known under an alias in the first game, and he already makes you hate him from the moment the reveal happens. This sick son of a bitch has no regard for human life. He's trying to transcend humanity, and he will put as many bodies in the ground or brainwash as many children as he needs to in order to meet that goal. You are one step behind him the whole way into the journey, because as much of an evil bastard as he is, he's got all the cards in his hand and he knows it, taunting you every bit of the way when you're encountering him, and then when it's finally time to face him...
This is me. How does that
Fighting him is pretty rough. Not nearly as rough as the previous fight against the Blade Lord, but you do manage to take him down, but he's still got the winning hand. The object he sought is in his grasp, and he'll be damned if he's going to let something as insignificant as his human body stop him. So he merges with this object of unbelievable power into an absolutely grotesque creature that he's still fully aware of himself within, and he likes it. And he's invincible to boot. Only a timely intervention from the Blade Lord takes down the invincible barrier, and then the fight can truly begin with this insanely ominous music. As he starts losing the self-preservation instincts of the artifact kick in and he loses control. The music turns over to the incredible track Merciless Savior, and you need to fight even harder as the attacks become more vicious, he gains immunities at random, and he can even permanently remove a party member from the fight if you're careless. But eventually you triumph, and then he gets away. Or does he? He actually gets one of the most karmatic deaths in the series, and it's glorious. If Behind the Bastards extended to video game characters, this guy would definitely be on the worst people ever list.
Number 3, The Shadow Lord.
Nier is a game I did not go for back in the day. Little did I know, much like the Trails games, I was missing out on some top-tier gaming. It's a heartbreaking tale of humanity, and it's all cultivated with this final fight against this entity, your own dark reflection, the Shadow Lord. Piecing together everything going on here is a massive undertaking, but put simply, the Shadow Lord is the original version of the protagonist, trying to restore humanity by any means necessary, starting with Yona. Personally, I prefer the first version we got in the US where the protagonist is older and the father of Yona, but a lot of people missed out on that the first time around, and it's easier to get footage of the remaster where the protagonist is her brother instead. That's a whole other can of worms. Anyway, the problem with what's going on here with what the Shadow Lord is doing is that you, as the copy, were just living your life before the Shadow Lord stepped in. And as far as you could tell, this guy is still trying to take Yona away from you. The full context of what's going on is something that you have to come to grips with later, and it all comes down to this harrowing battle of right versus right. The Shadow Lord has waited for centuries to make this happen, to hopefully restore humanity. But you don't know that. You're just trying to save Yona. The stakes of the fight, the gorgeous music, the cutscenes that happen throughout the fight, it's all absolutely heartbreaking to go through, and it results in one of the most memorable boss battles of all time, in my opinion.
Number 2, Weapon Core.
Freedom Planet, man. These two games are divisive, especially the first one, but the great visuals, the music, and the boss battles really made this a standout indie title that tugged at the Sonic fans. And the sequel didn't just clear the hurdle, it went flying out of the park. I prefer some of the music in the first game, but the boss battles in Freedom Planet 2 are absolutely astounding. You have to do some side content to hit this boss though. If you collected all of the time capsule messages and then beat the normal final boss, Merga, you are treated to one final level, where the game suddenly turns into a horror game, trying to stay out of the sight of this giant eye looking at you from afar, and it will instantly kill you via impaling if it sees you for too long. This level is tense. Then you finally get to fight this thing. If you got insta-killed, you saw the silhouette of this thing, but actually facing it down, this thing is insane. It's fast, deals tons of damage, and it is out for your blood. You have to use every single action in your arsenal to keep yourself safe and return fire at this thing, and also having to make sure to time dodges will be just fast enough to keep yourself from getting insta-death impalement during certain attacks. Even with all the other player characters coming out during the fight to help occasionally, it's absolutely a test of everything you have done in this game, and it's perfectly suitable for a hidden final boss, and worth beating just for extra morsels of story. Let's just hope Freedom Planet 3 doesn't take as long, or if it does, it's just as much of the wait as 2 was.
Number 1, The Primordial Darkness.
I had a whole video I wanted to make about the whole ending to Episode 6 of Phantasy Star Online 2. It didn't happen because I just couldn't find the words. I don't think I can encapsulate all of my feelings about this game and its ending into one video, so let's just focus on the final boss while we're here. Phantasy Star Online 2 is another game that is filled to the brim with unforgettable boss battles, so when it came time to bring it all to a close, they really went above and beyond. You finally take out the most powerful antagonist in the story so far, one more powerful than all of the Darkfall's incarnations, and an embodiment of the profound darkness itself. But it's a hollow victory. The darkness takes root inside of you, and your only option is to use the time travel abilities you've discovered over the course of the story to go back to the very beginning of time itself so the darkness does not consume everything you know and love.
You made the correct choice. All of creation begins and ends with this.
Or perhaps there's another way. The allies you've made over the episodes of the story come together and save you from falling through the abyss of time, separating you from the darkness in the process, but it isn't going quietly. Oh my god, it's massive. Oh my god, the music. This feels like a final battle like no other. Stop this monstrosity from clawing its way out of the abyss of time, cut it away from the walls, dodge its powerful attacks, getting your own attacks in while you can. It's a tough fight, but eventually you fell the great monstrosity, but it still lingers. You have to finish it off, once and for all. You go down to the fallen beast, being warned that there's still more fighting to do. And then... the unearthly scream, the ambiguous form. This is truly a being made from the primordial forces of the universe. The primordial darkness won't rest until one of you are dead. As if the first form's music wasn't incredible enough, you're treated to a fully vocal song as you duel this creature with everything you have. It unleashes forces of every element. Its attacks are relentless. There's multiple patterns you have to recognize. This is truly the last battle. And when it's finally over, you move on to the new world, free from the time loop that's been at the heart of the story. It's all finally over. Until New Genesis, that is. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it won't take another major catastrophe for me to work on something like this in the future. Until then, follow me on Twitter, I refuse to call it X, follow me on Twitch, and subscribe on YouTube. Until next time!